Yo, guys, what's up? Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to answer a listener question. You ready to dive in? Okay. So, someone wrote in. It says, hello, I'm married to my beautiful wife. We have 2 beautiful kids, age 4 and 2. Been there. They've been married for 8 years. I could use some help. So this is a dude. This is a husband. I could use some help navigating the world of intimacy in this new family dynamic. Things you said in the podcast about women being touched out and husbands better supporting their wives emotionally and protecting her from being touched out by the kids so she feels like she has nothing left for me at the end of the day. So that's the issue there. I believe that we will be able to get on the other side of this and make it a win. I like your growth mindset there, my friend. Looking forward to the solution. Thank you for the work you do, and I've been listening to your podcast for about a month and love what you're doing to strengthen families and marriages and relationships. So thank you so much, my man. This is a very common question where young couples, I assume you're young, you've been married less than 10 years, and you got 2 kids, 4 and 2. We were definitely there. Our boys are 18 months apart? 15 months apart, so they're very similar in age, plus we have a little girl, which she came a little bit later. So, okay, Melanie, I want you to give this guy some perspective from a wife who is touched out, because I just imagine that having little kids like that, probably she's at home more than you are, husband, and kids all day. Kids 24/7. We have been this way for the summer, and that's been a thing in our relationship too. Just kids talking, not touching all the time. But from a wife's perspective, can you help this guy and other husbands understand what being touched out all day means, what that does to you emotionally, physically, everything?
I just think how it feels when you're when you're touched out, and you've got, especially like a 2-year-old, that range of kiddo, like they're just walking, they're just getting into things, and their whole existence is, what would the word be? They're like little
tied to mom.
Well, no, what I was going to say is that they're testing everything. That's their point of their life. And I mean testing as in like little scientists, not like they're trying to test your patience. They're like, oh, if I push this cup off of the table, what will happen? And oh, if I put my sister's hair into the butter dish, what will happen? And oh, if I bite the dog's nose, what will happen? So they're supposed to be doing that. That's like what they're for, and what that season of the kid's life is for. And what's really challenging about that is that as a primary parent, in this case, we're talking about a woman, but as a mom, you're just like putting out proverbial fires from your kids all day long. So number one, you have to be hyper vigilant, even if you're like literally at home all day. You're aware, especially with 2 kids, of like, are they quiet too long? Is that one hurting that one? Is this one sticking their hand in the blender? Is that, like you're just constantly trying to, like, your antennae are scanning constantly in a way that is really, really tiresome. I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's just a lot of work.
You're always on, right? So
yes.
from my understanding, so we just went on a camping trip, and it was a 4.5-hour drive. And on the way back, we were talking about when the kids were little, and you were reminding the kids of like all the stuff they got into. Like one time, baby powder was all over the room.
Mariner had like an industrial size baby powder that your mom bought him, which we don't use baby powder. And he baby powdered every single knob in his bedroom, on his dresser. Like, and they had those tiles, those like foam tiles that you would take apart. And it literally looked like Christmas. Like it looked like snow on one side.
Right.
You pick up the tile and saw, oh, there's actually hardwood floor under that. And baby powder, if you don't know, ruins vacuums, and cleaning it was one of the hardest things ever. And it was like just ruining my really nice vacuum that your mom had given me. And
then the other kid like smeared Vaseline all over the chalkboard, and that was super funny. But I am bringing that up because that is some of the trials and tribulations. That's like, I was working out of the home then, so you were there to clean it up, and that's just part of the brain space that Melanie is talking about. It's like and I use this analogy a lot, like in coaching and therapy. When you have too many tabs open on your screen, your computer tends to run slower. You got so many programs going, it just kind of weighs everything down, bogs it down. I imagine that is the brain space of a young mom with young kids often. Now, that's just the emotional space, but this guy is talking about the physical space. Then I have some stuff.
Well, what I was going to say too is it's not just the emotional space, because it impacts everything. Right. It's like that. The body keeps the score vibe almost of like, You're running 5,000 tabs all day long. Your brain is calculating 1,000 things, and it's exhausting to your body to do all of that work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is so interconnected. But what were you going to say? Because I have an insight from this question that I want to point out. But what were you
So
gonna
first
say
of all, like having a guy, a husband, write in and listen to growth mindset stuff like this. Number one, that is, and having a growth mindset, that's one of like. You'll be fine. Like you even said in your email, you're just going through it right now. You said, I believe that we're going to get on the other side of this, which I believe that you will 100%. But just so first of all, good on you for that. Pat on the back. And second of all, like as a husband, getting more information and understanding the landscape of your wife and like trying not to take it personal, like it's super nice to come home, hey, give me a hug, kiss and whatever, a greeting, right? Even John Gottman talks about like coming home, you're acknowledged, you're greeted, stuff like that. That is something that I think could be manageable. Now, if it doesn't happen right away because somebody pooped on the thing and there's whatever over here.
What are you saying? That's a solution to this?
No, I would say, I would say that's a reasonable, I guess, request. Like, okay, we've been gone for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, like coming together, a quick hug or something like that. But for the guy, I would say that don't take it personal and try your best not to get butthurt around this stuff. That was one of my issues, I would say, when we were in your position here. Like, oh, I work all day or this or that, and she doesn't even think of me, right? It can hurt your feelings, right? Don't take it personal because understand that your wife has 8 million other things going on. Now, if it's a situation where like, oh, this is touchy and I'm walking on eggshells, then that is something that you have to have a deeper conversation with. But just being understanding and being able to sympathize and empathize with your wife to a point will get you such a long way. And then you can figure out like how to navigate it. Like, okay, I don't expect basically anything when I come home, it's like, okay, my wife knows that I like to, hug and kiss and greet and whatever. But if I see that she's doing a million other things, I jump right in and help and go and just dive in with her. And then like, hey, can I give you a break or whatever? That's another thing I think that's important. Because your wife at home is with the kids, no time for breaks, no time for nothing, right? And when you come home, I want you to put on the like dad, amazing, awesome husband hat, right? You jump in where you need to. If you see something, do something as far as like chores or help or anything like that. And I'm trying to say, don't have super high expectations. I'm trying to say that in a kind way, but not a defeatist way. Does that make sense? Like,
I'm going to tell you what every
context.
woman is hearing in their head right now.
Okay.
You are selfish is what every wife is hearing in their head.
Really?
Yes.
How so?
Don't have high expectations of the person who's raising small humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this because I want to call it to attention. It's immediately the feeling I have when you say that is like that I should care more about you than even what I have going on.
Mm-hmm.
I should care more about your feelings than what the kids have going on. That's what it sounds
right.
like.
So I am not saying that. I'm saying that it is reasonable to want to be acknowledged and like connect when a person gets home, if it's the wife working outside of the house or whoever. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, oh,
I don't know where that is in this question.
It's not. I'm saying from the guy's perspective, I know that probably is what he's thinking as well. So I'm not saying, oh, don't have high expectations because it all is centered around me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it's nice and that is a reasonable expectation. Okay, yeah, great. Have a hug when you get home or whatever. That's fine. But this is to the dude. Don't get butthurt or weird or take it personal or get all, goofy if all those things aren't happening. You know what I'm saying? And that, in my perspective, hopefully that's not a selfish perspective. That's a very reasonable thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, gone for 10 days. I want to connect with my wife. Hey, babe, how's it going? Hug, kiss, then keep on going. But if that doesn't happen, don't take it personal. Don't get butthurt. Get in, help where you can, give your wife a break. Say, hey, babe, I got it. Go do what you would love to do, need to do, go to Pilates, go whatever. And then you can work stuff in your schedule, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that is helpful and clear. I think I'm only stating out loud what I think women are going to feel when you say that. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just what women are going to feel. A lot of women that I know anyway.
Right.
But the primary thing I see when I read this is that there actually isn't a question. It just says, I could use some help navigating the world of intimacy in this new family dynamic. What? With what? Like now I'm not trying to be unkind, but I have no thing to go off of on that. And part of what I think needs to happen, which is, it's not a bad thing, but it's definitely something where what I would love to see you do, the person who wrote in, is sit down and write out that exact thing. So I could use some help navigating the world of intimacy in this new family dynamic. And then underneath that, give me 5 bullet points of what you mean. Does that mean sex? Does that mean just talking to my wife? What are you defining intimacy as? What is the new family dynamic? You must define that for me as well. So does that mean the new family dynamic, like with children in general or with toddlers? What does that mean? Like, there's not nearly enough clarity here for me to know what direction to go with it. And I'm going to use a quote. Dave Ramsey uses it all the time. He says, without a vision, the people perish. It's biblical, but I don't know what part of the Bible
It's a proverb.
But basically, without a vision, without a goal, without a direction, the people perish. So if you don't know exactly what it is that you're trying to even ask, I'm not going to be able to answer it. Seth's not really going to, we can only kind of guess.
I have an idea. Like, he's saying, hey, I would like to have more sex because that's how I feel connected.
But he never even said the word sex in there.
Well, intimacy, I'm assuming, right? So, but I'm just kind of reading in between the lines from like a guy's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I could do that as well. I know what we think he might be meaning, but I'm saying there's definitely the practice of really digging in and becoming hyper clear on what you mean on all of these things is only going to benefit you. So that's where I'm immediately saying is there's kind of not a question in here. There's not enough of one. I could use some help navigating the world of intimacy in this new family dynamic without knowing like why exactly your wife is touched out. Is it from picking up toddlers? Is it because has anxiety? Is she feel touched out because like one of your babies is colicky? Like, we need to know a little bit more. But the cool thing is you can do this practice on your own. So again, write it out. I need help navigating the world of intimacy in this new family dynamic. What does navigating the world of intimacy mean? So maybe it's something like, I need help figuring out how to have more dates with my wife. And then you'd answer it again. What does navigating the world of intimacy mean? So it might mean I want to have sex more than once a month. It might mean when I talk to my wife, I don't want a toddler in the room. I need to know specifics. And so do you. And so does your wife, right? So this practice is going to be helpful regardless of anything. It's going to be helpful for you to sit down and write and say, what is it that I want to see? So the other thing too that I think is important is doing something that I'm calling it, what is the word when you what's that called?
Futurecast.
I do what I call retrocasting. Imagine that you've already walked through that season of your life and you're in a totally new season and you can talk to someone about how awesome you handled the season that you walked through. So you're retrocasting, you're pretending that you've already done it, looking backwards and saying, oh gosh, it was so easy because we did X, Y, and Z.
That's what we did during the pandemic. Remember?
Yes.
I was like, hey, I want to get through this and be on the end of it and go, we
did awesome.
Went through that great. We came together, had our heads screwed on correctly.
Yeah. So that's the idea of retrocasting is pretend that your kids are, let's see.
10 and 12.
Yeah, 10 and 12. That's not right.
We're 2 years apart.
Oh, yeah, you're right. My brain was trying to make that 8 and I don't even know. Right. That 12. So, yeah, they're 10 and 12. 10 and 12-year-olds are way different than 2 and 4-year-olds, right? Imagine that they're able to do everything on their own. They can make their own lunch. They can walk themselves to the bus. They can tie their own shoes, right? So it's a totally different season. How did you get through that season of mom being touched out? What is it that you needed to do? So think about it backwards like that. What did you need? What was it that was so helpful when you went through that season and your wife was so touched out? So let's just spitball some things.
The husband was super attentive, and during all those times of her, being touched out and whatnot, you responded rather than reacted. And I say that, okay, here's other terms. You didn't get butt hurt, right? You didn't take it personal. You understood the whole context. Now, there's not enough information in this. If it's like, oh yeah, we haven't been together in 3 months because you just touched out, then that's
a different
a different story,
that's
right?
why I'm saying you can't just use the terminology touched out, and some moms might, because maybe they don't even know. So that it's a very good point saying like we need to know the details.
Right.
But I don't know. There's a lot to be said for that.
You maybe put sex on a schedule, right? The kids go to grandma's for 4 hours and you guys have a super long date night or something like that, to where part of the day she's not touched out because kids are at grandma's or wherever.
You could
maybe you take, on a Saturday, it's like, all right, dad time.
Yeah.
I take the kids biking, hiking, to the river, to the snowboarding. I do all kinds of stuff with the kids. Of course, they're a little bit older, but just because your kids are 2 and 4.
But you've done it without me forever.
Yeah,
You've done that for
forever.
a long time.
Take your kids to a bouncy house or a water slide or a play
without
place.
mom.
Without mom.
And the other thing I think is really important for men to understand, sometimes not every dad does this, but a lot of times dad will use the wife, even if he has the kids, he will use her for like, oh, what diapers does she need? What socks does she need? And so mom actually doesn't have her children with her, but she's got a man child asking her 1,000 questions that he should know the answers to. So begin knowing the answers that are simple.
Right.
Begin, like, if you need to write it down and carry it in your pocket, do it. Because it's almost like a mental touched out that women can get into, because men sometimes, just some dads are like that. I don't know about the sunscreen. So I brought my kid home and he's got a terrible sunburn, and the mom's like, F you to the end of the world,
right.
because
and that just makes
you
her
just
life
made my
more
life
difficult.
harder.
Right.
So I want to say something. This is going to sound funny, but just yesterday I went to QFC with Mariner, and I was looking for, I don't even know, chocolate or something. I was like standing in the aisle and I was listening to a dad. It was a stark moment because I've almost never heard this. There was a dad with little kids, probably about 2 and 4. He had the 4-year-old was like in the cart and the 2-year-old was like toddling around, and you could hear one of them, their feet went really quick, right? So you could tell they were running somewhere. And the dad goes...
That's a great sound, by the way.
It was so cute. Those kids were so cute. And but the dad goes, oh, don't run into the aisle, because if you run into the aisle, then a cart could come out and run into you, and we don't want that. And I was like, I swear that's the first time I've ever heard a dad explain the consequences, like, to a child. I've always just heard, don't do that, get back here. But then you'll have a mom who's like, here's why we don't do that, here's what it is. So it was just an interesting moment, and I promise I don't think I've ever heard a man do that. And I was like, right,
not even
on,
me,
dude.
Or do I do that?
No, you don't do that.
I just yell at him.
Yes, that's
Get
okay.
back here.
Yeah.
Get over here. Get over here.
What is that from? That's from Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I don't know. So this is a different question, but I hope that's helpful. And again, I just want to reiterate, I wish that you and I, as parents, as a married couple, when we had a 2 and a 4-year-old, were writing into podcasts asking questions like this, because we weren't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We weren't.
Podcasts didn't exist.
Yes, they did. Well, it's the very early days, but anyway,
on your iPod.
Because this, you got a growth mindset, and you're writing into stuff, and you have subscribed to the thing. So good on you for that. If you got any other follow-up questions, please feel free to send it in.
And let me say, just to wrap it up, this is the sort of more tangible things that you can do. Like I mentioned, write out this practice in your mind and ask yourself the questions, like, do the 5 whys. So like, why do I feel like, or like, why is my wife touched out? Answer that first one. Well, she's touched out because she's with the kids all day. Okay, well, why? Like, what can I do? So begin to just be like an investigative journalist for your own situation. Pick one situation. My wife is touched out. It's affecting our intimacy. And just ask yourself questions over and over again. Ask yourself, like, what would my healthy, like, friends do about it? What would someone else do about it? Like, spend 30 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, that's nothing in the scope of the relationship with your spouse. Spend 4 hours if you really want to do a good job at it. But sit down and brainstorm one thing and answer questions over and over, and you will be amazed at the solutions that you can bring. You can also do this in spoken form, so you can open up like your voice recorder app on your phone and just talk. Like, go on a walk. I do this at our church. We live across the street from a church that's like a park, and I'll go walk the trails when there aren't mountain lions on them and people spotting cougars on them. But walk around the trails and say, and I'll say the problem, like, okay, how do I get the X, Y, and Z thing, whatever it is. And then I'll just talk it through, but record the whole thing so that I can reference back to it and pull from it the things that were really, really helpful. You have a lot of wisdom inside of you. You've heard a lot of pieces of wisdom, but you aren't taking the time to compile them together and organize them. So that's what I would say. Like, there are way easy solutions to this, but you're not allowing yourself to think about it long enough, would be the way that I would sort of suggest that. And Google it. Some 9 million zillion, put it into Chat GPT.
My man's writing into this.
I'm not being mean to him. I'm saying this is a very great thing to Google and put into Chat GPT. My wife feels touched out from our 2 and 4-year-old. How can I help her feel more loved? And it will compile the top things curated by artificial intelligence, and you'll have the cream of the crop right there. Just start making it, implementing all of those things. I mean, it's very straightforward, but it's a good question, and I'm glad that you wrote in.
Yeah. So, all right, my man. Thank you. So if you want more shows like this, so we do talk about sex, but we also talk about things that build up to sex. And this is one of those things. And everybody with kids has gone through this. So thank you so much for subscribing. And all right, we'll talk to you soon, guys.
All right, bye.
All right, later.